Almost everyone in the Denver metro has heard of Westminster. It's the city between Denver and Boulder. Most people can place it on a map. But ask someone what's actually going on inside Westminster these days, and you'll usually get a pause. That's the gap I want to close today. Westminster's name recognition is real, but what's actually happening in this city right now, from a complete downtown reinvention to one of the largest open space systems in the metro, doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I work in and around this area regularly, and I want to give you the full picture, the genuine pros and the real trade-offs, and what the market looks like right now. History and facts that even surprised me. Westminster's story goes back further than most people realize. The first permanent settler arrived in 1870, a farmer named Pleasant Despan. The original settlement was actually called Despan Junction, built around shipping apples and farm produce out of the new railway. Here's the twist. The name Westminster doesn't come from London directly. It comes from Westminster University, a small college that operated here starting in 1908. When the town incorporated as a city in 1911, residents named it after that university, which is why, decades later, the city built a 130-foot bell tower designed to echo the look of London's famous clock tower at Westminster Palace. That bell tower is still a defining visual landmark in the city today. In 2026, Westminster is actually celebrating its 115th year as an incorporated city, which happens to line up with Colorado's 150th anniversary as a state and the country's 250th. There's a real sense of civic milestone that's happening this year. One more piece of history that shaped the city. In the late 1980s, Westminster grew so fast that the city government made the unusual decision to pause new housing with a building moratorium, then build a real long-term growth plan before continuing. That kind of intentional planning is part of why the city feels as established and structured as it does today. So let's talk about what Westminster gets right. Downtown Westminster is not the downtown people remember. If the last thing you knew about this area was the old Westminster Mall, you're working off of outdated information. The city tore most of that mall down and rebuilt the area into what's now called Downtown Westminster. Walkable streets, new apartments, and an Alamo Drafthouse cinema, a mix of restaurants and retail, sitting right off US 36, which locals call the gateway to Boulder. More projects, including a planned food hall and new park, are in motion for the next couple of years. This is genuinely one of the more dramatic transformations happening in the North Metro right now, and a lot of people simply haven't seen it yet. Another thing they get right, the open space here is seriously massive. Westminster protects close to 2,900 acres of open space, one of the larger systems of its kind in this part of the metro. Standley Lake Regional Park anchors a lot of it, with over 1,000 acres of water, 7 miles of trails, and a nature center, while Westminster City Park adds disc golf, fishing, and creek trails. Stack that with 150 plus miles of trails citywide and you get daily outdoor access most cities this size cannot match. Another pro, the neighborhoods actually have a distinct personality. This surprised me when I dug into it. Westminster isn't one uniform suburb. Shaw Heights and Legacy Ridge have mature trees and an established settled feel. Huntington Trails leads newer with more modern construction. Countryside and West Westminster sit closer to the trail system for buyers who want that lifestyle specifically. So knowing which one of these fits you matters more than just picking Westminster as a city. Moving right along, education levels here are notably high. Around 95% of adults in Westminster hold a high school diploma, which is a meaningful indicator of community stability. The city is served by 19 to 27 public schools, depending on how you count the district overlaps, plus private charter options. Westminster Station gives you a direct commuter rail connection, the B line, straight into Union Station in downtown Denver. No transfers needed. From there, you can connect to other rail lines across the metro, including the A line out to the airport. And for Boulder, the Flatiron Flyer bus rapid transit service runs right from this area. So if your household needs flexibility in either direction, this is genuinely one of the few spots in the metro set up to handle both pretty well. Some things to know before you commit. You are paying for the lifestyle and the location. Cost of living estimates for Westminster vary depending on the source, but most put it somewhere above the national average, anywhere from a few percentage points to as much as 20 to 25% higher, largely driven by housing costs. If budget is the top of your priority, North Glen or parts of Thornton are worth comparing since they tend to run a little bit more affordable. Pick your neighborhood deliberately and not just the city name. Given how different all of the areas of Westminster are, you should drive the actual streets of whatever neighborhood you're considering more than once before deciding. And this does include testing your commute, because near 120th and Sheridan and close to the retail clusters by the mall, traffic can build up at peak hours. Be sure to check the individual school and not the citywide number. Westminster's citywide greatschools.org average sits around 4 out of 10, but with dozens of schools overlapping districts, that number hides real variation in both directions. So pull the specific rating for whatever school your address would be zoned for. Another heads up, Standley Lake has rules because it's also a working water supply. Since the lake supplies drinking water to Westminster, Thornton, and North Glen, swimming and wading aren't permitted, and paddling requires a seasonal permit May through September. Still a major recreational asset, just one with structure behind it. So what homes are actually doing right now? Quick look at the numbers. Be sure to pull fresh comps with your agent before acting on any of this, since this market can move pretty quick. But right now, single family homes in Westminster are landing in the 580 to 650 range. Average time on market is around 32 to 39 days, giving buyers a noticeably more comfortable negotiating position than in past years. We are seeing price drops and seller concessions across the state right now, so don't necessarily write off an area based on the list price alone. There's real room to have price conversations if you walk in with the right comps. Check out our last video if you need some help with negotiating. First-time buyers can look at using Colorado's CHFA down payment assistance here, the same as anywhere else in the state. For entry-level inventory specifically, the area around Westminster Station tends to have smaller single-family homes and condos in that 375 to 500 range. A more accessible price point than neighborhoods like Standley Lake, which run higher, generally 500 to 700,000 for a single-family home. Who Westminster is built for. So putting this all together, Westminster tends to be the right call for people who genuinely need flexibility between Denver and Boulder. Anyone who wants serious daily trail and open space access and not just like the occasional weekend trip. Buyers who want a real walkable downtown experience without leaving the suburbs. People drawn to distinct established neighborhoods rather than one-size-fits-all subdivisions. And if a smaller budget or a more singular small town feel matters more to you than a central position, this is useful information. It just means we need to look at different parts of the map together. If Westminster or anywhere else in the Northern Metro is on your radar, send us your questions in the comments or reach out directly. If this gave you something useful, please give us a like and be sure to subscribe for the rest of this year's content, because we're covering the rest of the Northern Metro. I'm Kristen Rogney. Thanks again for watching, and remember, with Rogney Homes, we help your dreams find their address.